There is another character in the dream was born according to A Course in Miracles. The Holy Spirit was born. A Course in Miracles calls the Holy Spirit the alarm in the mind of the sonship. The sonship, it's all of us. It says that God has only one son, which is called the sonship, which it is referring to unity. And then this is the alarm. This character, the book calls us as the Holy Spirit, which is the voice of God in my mind. But remember that the only purpose of the particle is to eliminate the crazy idea, the idea of separation that creates guilt and fear. And now on the second board, we're going to see how everything is projected on the world and how the particle is living the system or the virus, in which way we're living the virus. But we have to be aware of the virus. And we have to be aware that this is the only virus that the mind has. Nothing else. It's very radical. So the third dreams were born. And we are on the third dream. We are very, very, very like deep inside a very deep dream. Remember that the mind wanted to live her own dream. I am separate, I'm away from my creator. I'm independent, like the story of the prodigy son in the Bible, which the son goes away with all the fortune, spends the fortune away, and then comes back to the father's house. And when the son comes back, the brother tells the father, but he went away and he spent the money and he left home. It doesn't matter, let's throw a party, let's do a buffet. That is the story of us in the Bible. We are the prodigy son wanting to live a third dream, very, 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 very forgotten of our origin, because the only purpose is to come back to the dream. And the book says, before anyone asks, the book says, you're going to have one question once you study the book and once you go into non-duality and all of this, and it's why? And I'm sure we all ask this question already to ourselves. Why did I choose this? Why did I create a horrific game like this in moments that we're suffering? But Jesus says in the book, that is past. And the moment you start asking that question, you're falling, you're on the fall again. You went back to sleep. Do not ask yourself that question. What's done is already done. And on the third dream, of course, this dies. The body dies. The game is over. The particle stays, which has never left the second dream, stays on the second dream and arrange another timeline if this one wasn't enough. If the particle hasn't eliminated fear of going back to its origin and guilt from being in a body, by the moment that the particle transitions, the particle needs to create another timeline, because the only purpose is to dissolve the virus. So little by little, the particle starts going back, and that's what we call reincarnation. That's what Buddhism calls reincarnation. Little by little, the particle starts dissolving the only idea. But it's very thick, and the particle has a strong desire to live that idea. And we have to respect that desire too. That is part of the process, respecting the desire of the particle. And that is, Alexis talked about acceptance. That to me has been one of the biggest acceptance that I had to go through as a particle. Because sometimes the particle just wants to finish the game, but it doesn't work like that. So the mind on this paranoia was divided in three. The paranoia is really big. So the ego mind is the paranoia, which is the little I, the small I, not the big one, the small one. Second part is the decision maker. This term was given by Kenneth Wapnick. I really recommend Kenneth Wapnick if you want to commit to A Course in Miracles. So he came up with this term, but A Course in Miracles says the plan for the particle to wake up to the truth, it's already written, and you have to rest in that. But you, having the willpower of making the decisions. That's the only thing that was given to you. You wanted to live the dream, there you go, you're living the dream, but the only thing that was given to you was the willpower to decide from which mind you want to live the dream, and from which mind you want to perceive your dream. And then the Holy Spirit, which according to A Course in Miracles is the voice of God in my mind. Voice of God. This is the term that the book gives to the Holy Spirit. Remember that as a book that is written in Christian language, Jesus is now coming to give new meanings to the words. So Holy Spirit now is the voice of God in my mind. It's not a bird, it's not something external, it's the voice of God, which is also in my mind. But we are contaminated with, remember, with the idea of separation. And the ego mind, which is full of guilt and fear, that is the virus that the mind has inside, fear and guilt, born from the idea of separation, is the only thing that the Holy Spirit needs to eliminate from the mind. How do we do this? By giving permission through our decision maker. Every time we are not at peace, we take the situation, as Santosha said, we give it to the Holy Spirit, and then the Holy Spirit will give us his perception, and our vision, our perception from the situation will radically change. The more we do this, the more we practice this, of course we're going to have issues in order for us to practice. We're going to have a lot of issues. Maybe we're already having it. The more we practice this, the more these minds goes like this, the more this mind grows, and then the decision maker stays the same. Let's say the more we do it, the more it grows. The more we do it, the more it grows, until, which we call it enlightenment, being enlightened, everything becomes the Holy Spirit, and everything becomes love. And then the origin is complete in its original form. The idea of separation is not there anymore, and then we don't need to play the game. That's why the book is very radical, because if the mind wants to continue playing the game through suffering, you can continue playing the game without suffering. But through suffering, that's a totally different story. This is the process of enlightenment, and this is the process of A Course in Miracles, which it never calls it enlightenment, but using some other languages, we can refer to it as going back to the initial state of the mind, even without the first dream. Any question about this? How the mind was split? It says your mind is split in two. Let's say the ego mind and the Holy Spirit mind. This is the wrong mind. That's what the book calls this mind. And this is the straight or right, let's say the right. But it's the straight mind, la mente recta in Spanish. And the 31 chapters of this book is just for the mind, for the decision maker, is pointing at the decision maker. Just for the mind to decide, where do I want to live? Whenever I'm facing any situation that is canceling my peace, where do I want to see it from? My perception is a link to this mind right now, or is a link to this mind? The one we choose will talk about our level of peace. If we choose this one, there is no peace. This mind is fear. This mind is guilt. This mind is suffering. So I study the science of acceptology from this guy from Colombia, Gerardo Smedlin. And the guy has a term which is saturation of suffering, or suffering saturation. That's why we cannot help anyone that doesn't exist. If that person is not saturated by suffering, if that person is not on his or her knees, we cannot help anyone. We have to be saturated. That's why we are all here. If we have one thing in common, is that we are all saturated by suffering. So this is the ego mind with the little I. We're gonna see on the next board what this little I is and every content that it has inside. And then this is the spiritual mind, or the Christ, for A Course in Miracles, the Buddhist mind. But we are in A Course in Miracles introduction class, and we're going to call it the Christ. The right mind, the wrong mind, and the right mind. The right mind has peace, has love, has health. Remember, in the mind, the psychotherapy manual, it's very clear on this aspect. Do not ask for the body to be healed. Ask for your mind to be healed while your body is sick. Ask for everything that is eternal. So we can say abundance. The miracle happens in the mind. The only one that needs to come back to its origin is the mind. So this is how our mind is a split, and this is the split that we have to heal. And this is what the practice that we're going to be doing this whole year is going to work on, to heal the split of the mind and to see everything from one lens only. But for that to happen, remember, we have to be steady in our decision maker. And the 31 chapters tells you the outcome from living on this mind versus the outcome of living on this mind. That's why we read the book every day if we can, or we listen to it, just as a reminder for the mind.